It is finished. 3 words in English, but a single word in Greek. Tetelestai. Tetelestai. Finished. Shouted by Jesus from the cross just before he died. Finished. It seems like such a simple word. Empty cup, my coffee is finished. Clean sidewalk, my shoveling is finished. It's 11 o'clock, Reverend Bob's sermon is finished. Yeah, right, huh? But there's more in that little word finished than you think. No single word has been more powerful or more influential in our lives in the whole course of history than this 6th word of Jesus from the cross. Mark and Luke tell us that it was spoken with a shout, in a loud voice. This wasn't some kind of dying whisper of agony and despair. It was a cry of triumph and victory, a love that triumphs. Jesus has been on the cross now for almost 6 hours. He's been up all night, been through the agony of the Garden of Gethsemane, the trials, the march up Calvary's Hill, mocked, beaten, forsaken, harassed, nailed on a cross and hung up in the sun. He was physically broken, bleeding, and dying. The smell and feel of death and defeat, darkness and despair hang heavy in the air. Suddenly, Jesus shouts out this single word, finished, in a voice filled with victory, triumph, and jubilation. It so startled the crowd that the scriptures tell us in Mark 15 that a Roman centurion who was standing at the foot of the cross heard this cry, saw how Jesus died, and said, "Surely this man is the Son of God." Many biblical scholars believe this to be the greatest word ever spoken in the history of the human language, the greatest proclamation ever given to humankind. Finished. Finished. It's a word that simply means completed, fully accomplished. I'm done. Today we have derivatives from the same root word of the verb in the original language in such modern words as telephone or telegraph or television. Words that mean a word or message or vision carried to its intended destination and conclusion. That's the meaning of Jesus' word finished. Something carried to its intended conclusion. So what was completed? What was accomplished? And more importantly, what difference does it make to you and me? I find in this word 3 things. Let me give them to you, then I'm going to tell you a story. It was a sufferer's cry of relief. End of suffering and pain. The cross is behind me. Jesus had left the glories of heaven, and during his 33 years on earth experienced all of the pressures and stresses and tensions and troubles and frailties of human life, and the unbelievable brutality and torture of the last 18 hours. Finished. End of suffering and pain. It was also a son's cry of expectation. Stay on earth over, heading back home to glory and to the Father. Here's the best one. It was a worker's cry of achievement. Jesus had said, "My business is to do the work of the Father and finish his work." What the Father had sent him to do was finished. Debt for sin paid. Penalty served. Bridge between a holy God and a sinful man built. Barrier has come down. Access to God achieved. Battle has been fought between good and evil, as we heard the choir sing. Life and death, God and Satan, and good and life and God have won. Devil disarmed and defeated once and for all. Heaven for us is assured. Sufferer's cry of relief. A divine son's cry of expectation. A worker's cry of achievement. But that's the biblical theology and meaning of the word finished. But to bring it down to where you and I live, what does this word say to you and me? What difference does it make to me and to you? So I want to tell you a story. In fact, let me become the character in the story and see how this looks through his eyes. So I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. Okay, you can open them. I'm now Judas, the man in the noose. Good morning. I want you to picture in your mind a little house right over there, just down a little side street in Jerusalem, not far from the temple. Seems to be empty. It's early afternoon Friday, yet strangely it's dark out. The streets are empty. Everybody has gone out to the crucifixion site. You push back the door. It's dark inside. You take a moment for your eyes to adjust. Suddenly, you see it. A body dangling at the end of a rope. You gasp with horror. Look closely at the face. Look familiar? It's mine. It's me. It's Judas. Judas Iscariot. I'm the man in the noose. It's finished for me. Betrayal complete. Blood money gone. The evil deed is done. Self-sentenced, pronounced. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. Jesus is dead, so too must I be. The gavel of judgment has struck. Judas on the end of the rope. Now, I need to tell you how I ended up on the end of that rope. My name, as I've told you, is Judas Iscariot. I'm listed last among the disciples of Jesus and referred to with those infamous words, the man who betrayed Jesus. For all eternity, I'm known as the betrayer, a cold-blooded traitor, perhaps the most despised character in the Bible. John said it was a thief. Jesus himself referred to me as a devil. I mean, just the name Judas stirs in you a certain emotion. How many of you would name your new baby boy Judas? No one names their boy Judas now. It would be like naming a baby Adolf after Adolf Hitler. But did you know the name Judas comes from the word Judah, which means God be praised. My parents rejoiced and gave thanks to God when I was born. They named me God be praised. The name Iscariot means son of Kerioth, or citizen of Kerioth. That tells you that I came from a small village just south of Jerusalem in the region where the famous prophet Amos was born. That made me a Judean, not a Galilean. And Judas was a popular name. The name of the most famous military leader in our country, Judas Maccabeus, a famous freedom fighter and patriot. So you see, I had a good start in life. I was raised in a religious home, taught by my parents to love and honor my people and my country and my God. Now you also need to know that I was the odd man out among the 12 disciples. In all four of the Gospels, when the disciples are listed, my name is put last. That tells you what they thought of me. I was different from the others in background, temperament, and outlook. They all came from Galilee. I came from Judea. They came from the laboring classes, fishermen, farmers, carpenters like Jesus, blue-collar guys. I, on the other hand, had some formal education. And I'd been around. I just didn't fit in. More than once, I took Jesus aside and firmly suggested that he take advantage of my considerable knowledge and experience. But no, he shared his real confidence with those two hotheads, James and John, and that loudmouth bag of wind, Peter. To me, he said, Judas, you can be treasurer. Big deal. Treasurer with no money in the bank. What fun is there in that? And if only Judas had taken my advice, things would have turned out differently. Not to your benefit, maybe. I mean, the cross and the crucifixion are sort of important to your whole theology of penalty for sin paid and sins forgiven and eternal life. But what a stupid thing for Jesus to do, to get crucified. He could have avoided all that if he just listened to me. But oh no, let yourself get crucified. So why did I throw my lot in with Jesus in the first place, you may ask? Simple answer. I was named after a hero who was synonymous with patriotism and power and freedom. Judas Maccabeus, a favored freedom fighter and patriot. For 5 centuries, my people were no better than slaves. Never since the fall of Jerusalem in the 5th century BC had we known a single year of national independence. Not one. Only the brief rebellion led by my namesake, Judas Maccabeus. Centuries of oppression and suffering. When I was born, our country was an occupied country, a satellite province in the Roman Empire, and we were being bled poor by oppressive taxes and terrorized by foreign soldiers who marched arrogantly through our streets. And I had this great hope, deep in my heart, a great hope every faithful Jewish person had, that one day God's Messiah would come and rally our oppressed people and crush our enemies into the dust and restore our national independence. And I was sure that Jesus was that heaven-sent Messiah, born leader, tons of charisma. Crowds flocked to hear him preach, and such authority he had about God. He brought the presence and power of God right into our experience, just like the early prophets. He made blind men see and cripples walk. He cured lepers, healed insane people. He even stopped a storm on the Sea of Galilee. Now I ask you, who else could he be but the Messiah? And that's what attracted me to him. That's why I threw my lot in with him. We'd take this country back and stomp on the Romans once and for all. The end of oppression.